K K K K I R R R R K K K Kirk Buchner. Well, that's the best part of the song. Now that we've done that, thank you for all watching. How the hell was this a hit? No? Okay, we'll continue. Well, I am Kirk Buchner, and I'm with my co-hosts, Brad Nelson and Andrea Tessmann, and we are looking at how the hell was this a hit? And on behalf of Canada, sorry.
Hey, no, don't apologize for this. This is good stuff.
Hey, other countries rated it higher than Canada did.
It charted higher in the U.S.
This is true. And we are looking at The Safety Dance by Men Without Hats, which was good because they didn't have any hats, except in the last picture I saw of Ivan where he had a hat.
He was wearing a hat,
He was
yes.
wearing a hat. But,
funny story how they got that name, but yeah.
Right. But before we do that, this is a Not Hall of Fame production, not HallOfFame.com production from the Bucknerverse. And we also run the the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame, and ballots just went out for the Pro Football Hall of Fame Revisited. Brad, did you get your ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes?
No. Well, we're going to be looking at if the Pro Football Hall of Fame actually began in 1946. Huh?
If it did, boy, that would have changed things.
It actually will be changing a whole lot. And
it would. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Well, we put together a crew that's going to sort of like do that, but they're not going to dance and sing.
Andrea, did you see that ludicrous display?
Ludicrous.
No, nobody else here watches the IT crowd.
I thought I was actually thinking of Spaceballs.
Yeah. Ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed, and I wasn't sure if that's where you were going with that, because sometimes the two of you have your own lingo that I'm just not privy to.
It's true, and I have watched the IT crowd multiple times, but probably not in close to a decade.
Okay.
So maybe I need to touch up on my references.
Well, Men Without Hats from Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Pretty much almost like Canada.
Yes. There's only one real person to worry about in this group. What's his last name? Ivan something. You always just know him as Ivan.
Doris Chuck.
Okay. Not any relation to Herman Mendelchuk.
They're very different names.
Okay. Well, I just thought I'd ask.
They have Chuck. Like a Bob with a Bob, dang, you up Chuck the booty.
Well,
how much wood could a woodchuck chuck?
A woodchuck could chuck wood.
I don't know how much Ivan could chuck, but he upchucked this. But before he did that, pretty much every new wave act in the early 80s was at one point a punk act. Yes. He was no exception to this rule. But they really came out of nowhere because they were not successful in Montreal in either incarnation. They managed to at least get the club scene, but barely.
Yep. And it was funny because the impetus for this song, you guys probably saw that because it's like the first line on 8-bit of research.
Blew my mind. Boy, did I get this wrong? But yeah, go ahead.
So Safety Dance was all about a little bit of a two middle finger salute to the bouncers at the clubs they would go to when, thank God, disco was in its death throes. It was dying. It was curling up.
Already dead at this point.
Going away. It was leaving. It was just about finished. And punk and dance music and what have you was taking over. And at a lot of punk shows and even at some of the new wave shows, because like you were saying, a lot of punk bands or new wave bands started off as punk bands. There was a dance called the pogoing. And pogoing was just jumping up and down in the same spot and maybe, turning a little bit, maybe bumping into somebody. And then it became more like moshing when it morphed into slam dancing. And that's what they were trying to avoid.
But they weren't there yet.
No, pogo dancing was very different from slam dancing.
Yes.
But because basically you keep your torso still and your arms by your sides and you're just bouncing around.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a danger. It wasn't really about them trying to avoid people full on moshing. They were trying to avoid the people who were still disco dancing getting inadvertently pogoed.
I think that sounds like somebody listening to disco and disco dancing's problem, and not the pogoers. The pogoers are trying to eradicate the evil doers of disco.
The pogoers have no talent. That's why they're doing that. That's something I would have done.
Yes,
Yeah.
but kill disco.
Okay, that may be. But when I was a kid and I first heard this, and
back in the 20s?
Yeah, I'm only a few months older than you, but anyway. Yeah, I was actually right there when apparently it was actually 20 commandments, but I said to Moses, just 10. These people aren't.
Yeah, knock them back a little bit.
Yeah.
You were there playing Oregon Trail in real life.
Anywho, now damn it, I lost my train of thought because of that.
Choo choo.
Okay, wait, now I remember. All right, so when I was a kid, I first heard this in my sort of innocence, but I still thought, okay, this is got to be about safe sex, even though it would have only been 11 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought this was.
Yeah.
The safety horizontal dance.
And as it turned out, I am one day old to learn that was not the case. All this time, it was actually literally about dancing safely, but they really weren't.
And then the video. You guys gotta love the video. The video is just a cacophony of awesome.
It is not.
I don't understand. The video makes no sense whatsoever.
No sense in relation to the song, but what a visual feast.
Okay, so like, are you somebody who used to go, like, do you love medieval times, Brad? Is this why this is appealing to you?
Okay, I haven't been to medieval times. But you've got a bunch of happy people running around. You got some
Renaissance fair.
Yeah, you got some maypole dancing. You got a midget. A little person. You got a little
Therefore,
person.
Brad's happy.
100%. You put a little person in there anywhere. I mean, I have watched everything that Brad Williams has done because that is one funny little person, and he has an awesome first name. And I think he's hilarious. But anyway, you got all of that going on, bright colors. It
like you got Punch and Judy.
It hits the ADD part of the brain and pinballs around and just lights up so much of me.
They weren't even doing the dance.
They weren't pogoing, no, but they were running around
like idiots.
Also, in imitating the electric guitar with a lute.
100%. How awesome is that?
And so there's like the crazy looking chick who apparently was an editor-in-chief for Cosmopolitan.
Oh, I wasn't even in the
band. No, it wasn't in the band, and it was only like 10 years ago that she actually like they figured out who it was, and that she was she made it pretty high up in the fashion world apparently. She's like making
and sing.
She's making crazy faces, and then Ivan's just like mugging, like staring at the camera, singing, making zero expression. Like, if anything, he looks angry and bored.
Well, I guess he's angry because he doesn't get to pogo. He doesn't even get to pogo at the Renaissance Fair. The bouncer there told him he couldn't do it.
And that bouncer was wearing armor.
If he didn't, he was going to get jousted. I do remember as a kid, like thinking, what the hell is this? And what does this have to do with safe sex? Nothing.
Well, back then,
I hope you're leaving your friends behind if you're going to have safe sex. Like,
bring them along, whatever. But did you guys know, and this is a cute little bit of historical info for you guys, that I can't remember, I believe it was the Scots who invented the sheepskin condom. And then it was the English who actually involved other people.
It was the Greek who did stuff with just the sheep.
Oh, it was okay. It was Greeks. Okay. But boom.
Thank you. You said you figured out where they came up with their name. I couldn't.
Okay. They were living in Montreal and going through winter, and the three of them that eventually wound up forming parts of the band, refused to wear hats in the winter, and so they referred to themselves as the Men Without Hats.
Okay, well, at least there's an actual reason for it.
But the band that they started off as was Wave 21.
Was that what was that for? Did you find that
I
out?
don't know what that was for, but it was brought up as a name again when one of the band members and two of his daughters did a pop country or tried to do a pop country band, they called themselves Wave 21.
When we're sort of looking at this, we've covered this before, like in songs of this exact era. 2 years later, 2 years earlier, this is not a hit.
No, it's certainly not. It fell into a sweet spot
that it only could possibly do. I tried to listen to some of their other songs from that effort. It's really bad.
No, it's not that good.
So this is misclassified as a one-hit wonder. It's really not. Pop Goes the World was
Pop Goes the World.
Yeah, Pop Goes the World is on a subsequent album.
Yeah, it did not do as well in the United States, which might be why people south of the border believe Men Without Hats is a one-hit wonder, but that's not really the case, because Pop Goes the World did actually, I think, charted better than Safety Dance in Canada. In Canada.
Oh, in Canada, yes.
Yeah. In Canada, I believe that's the case. And that was like, wasn't that 7 years after? Because it wasn't right after. This was like.
Okay, so Safety Dance pops up in 82.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pop Goes the World. Pop Goes the World comes up in 87, so 5 years later.
Oh, 5 years. Okay. So yeah. I thought it was a little later than that.
I mean, if you look at the timeline of this band and the members, there's like no less than 32 people, I swear, that have come and gone throughout. Like,
and none of them are actually midgets.
Little people.
No, the little person was not in the band. He was just in the video.
No, what a great job he did.
Muppet.
He just did really well, I think.
I don't know. I'm just still befuddled by everything, how this ever worked. And I know we're supposed to do a deep dive and figure out how. I'm still not even sure how, other than.
Well, look at what was going on. Disco's dead.
Yeah, it's dead.
It's shambling corpse.
You said Punk was like, Punk was dead at this point too.
Yeah. Punk was making an exit, because there was still some early 80s punk.
I was going to say there was still some. I can't name anything, but
right. But I mean, like the Clash was hanging on, but
Black Flag, stuff like that.
Right, but I mean, we're talking mainstream. Black Flag was never mainstream.
No, they certainly weren't.
Right.
So let's look at what's happening here. I mean, you're getting a lot of synth driven. Like, okay, disco left its mark. There was 80s pop was pretty hot, synth heavy. Same thing with new wave. This was in the throes of new wave. So yeah, okay, it's pretty synth heavy. Same with anybody else who was coming up at this time in the new wave circuit. So why did it become popular? I think at least because to this day, you can still wind up saying to somebody of a certain age that you can dance if you want to, and they will finish that for you.
I played this at the bar I go to, where the bartenders are in their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just ask me, which one are you doing next? Usually they never know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at me and they say, like, I've heard this.
Yeah.
They can't tell me where, but they know they've heard this. Mm-hmm. And sort of thing, like, I know it was used briefly in a South Park episode.
Was it?
Yeah, well, or something was
been used in a bunch of things. There was also a Weird Al did a spoof of it.
Weird Al did in 84.
But not a great one. Not one of his better ones.
Well, it wasn't like Weird Al.
Called The Brady Bunch.
What? It was featured in Glee, in the Dream On episode.
I missed that episode and every other episode of Glee.
I started off Glee with super high hopes. I'm like, you're going to have a bunch of people doing a coming of age show with musical numbers? I mean, yes, sign me up. And I got about halfway into the season, and then I hate watched the rest of the first season and gave up. Because I'm like, I'm invested. I'm here already. I'm going to see how this plays out. And I hate watched it. And it sucked. And the second season, I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. Maybe they're going to, rise like a phoenix from the ashes. They did not. It got worse.
Well, what do you expect? There's a 30-year-old football player who turned out to be a pedophile.
Yeah, but at least,
When I say pedophile, there's no at least you can possibly do.
Oh, no, that wasn't the one that killed himself. Okay.
Nope.
No, and then there was the other one who just everyone hates. Why do I know so much about a show I never watched?
I think you secretly hate watched it with me.
I did not. I did not. I just was up on my TMZ at the time. Or Perez Hilton might have been more accurate.
Ooh.
No, I don't think I ever saw a full episode. So that's not a show for me. So I think you guys hit it on the head. It's that sweet spot. It's people want to dance and they don't necessarily know what they're dancing to, and it doesn't really matter. They're still dancing, and you remember the words, and you're acting like an imbecile.
Yeah, well, I mean, around the same time, Devo's coming out with Whip It.
Yeah, it was 2 years before, but yeah.
Yeah, similar vibe though. So in that little sweet spot that we were talking about,
mm-hmm.
And again, synth heavy, very monotone vocals on it. Well, that was some serious ear whipping action.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, from Winnie. Or when are you going to go?
Winnie's going crazy there.
Yeah, Winnie's not as calm today as she normally is.
No, she's a little spicy.
Yeah, she's a little feisty girl, aren't you? Well, I guess she really wants to dance.
Well, you should let her dance. Do 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 do.
And speaking of which, they're actually playing here in Winnipeg next month.
Men Without Hats?
Really?
Yeah, it's part of like the Burton Cummings block party. So it's I actually want to see the first 3 acts. It's Men Without Hats, even though I don't really care for it, but I'd rather see them than the main event. The other ones are the Spoons and A Flock of Seagulls.
And I ran so far away.
I don't think he's got the hair anymore, but
no,
he went bald.
There's a few of us that got that problem.
Yeah, but the main event's Glass Tiger, which
someday you'll be crying your tears. No, you'll be shedding your tears, and then you'll cry over me.
Yeah, I can't. I always hated that band.
And then impressive drums. Boom, 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 boom.
That was almost a Phil Collins role.
I know, that's what I thought it was. That actually would be a pretty good one for us to do next week, but we're not.
I don't know why that simple drum riff has captured everybody.
Because it's everything that's sort of like it's building up to it.
It is, and then you get that release.
There you go. You've answered it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, either way, it was awesome. Still is awesome to this day. I mean, the whole song builds to that drum.
Yes, it does. Only that drum. That would actually. No, we've actually covered how that was a hit. But that's
there you go.
But do you want to know what we got for next week?
Ooh, what have you got on deck for us?
Okay.
Tell us, King.
All right. We can go one of 2 ways. I'm going to let you decide. We can stay in this decade and do something very cheerful and sort of fits into the pattern of women that I kind of enjoyed back in the day in my own little way. Or something still Canadian and very miserable in the 90s.
Is it Alanis Morissette?
No, it's not.
The 90s kind of sucked, so my vote's going for staying in the 80s.
Andrea?
I don't know.
If I'm going to let your vote weigh it one way or the other, Andrea, because you've got seniority here.
I'll just keep the other ones just sort of like locked in for a future episode.
A little back pocket.
Yep.
Let's stick with the 80s.
Okay. We are going to go to an actual one-hit wonder. We're going to go to the delightful Stacy Q, Two of Hearts.
Two of Hearts, 2 hearts that beat as one. I need you.
Feel free free to also YouTube what she's doing now.
Where is she now?
Well,
we'll talk about that next week.
Well, it's pretty easy to. Well, I'll sort of spoil that right now. She's singing Two of Hearts in front of 100 people. But yes,
100.
No.
Like dive bar?
It might not even have been 100.
She gets up karaoke, sings her own song, gets paid in beer.
I don't know where she was, but she's aged interestingly. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I'm gonna go check this out.
Yes. With that, while Brad's checking it out, this is a great time for you to go on Amazon and buy a book.
You know what's great poolside reading?
A book.
Wrestling books.
A book about wrestling.
Well, not just any wrestling. It's professional wrestling extraordinaire. The late great Chavo Guerrero Sr. Chavo Guerrero Instant Classic. You can get that on Amazon, and soon we'll eventually sort of be doing that in the Kindle version.
Ooh,
yeah, like
going digital.
Yes, I'm going to figure out how to do that because I don't know how to do much, but we are going to do that. A bunch of other shows are in the tank that I'm sure my amazing webmaster is going to put up, but up right now is Hit Me Baby One More Time on, I guess, what could be the last episode of This Crap Was on National Television, where Chris Bournet and I examined.
Well, that just dropped the day before yesterday.
Yes, it did. So that just went on the YouTube channel, and so that's already out now. We also have a few other things. A deep dive on the retro football show on Super Bowl VI. Super Bowl VII will be coming up. Andrea, who do you think won that?
The Broncos.
No.
Was it the Chattahooga Cottontails?
No.
Oh.
At least when you made up something last time, you actually made up something that really exists.
Yeah, this time I went ridiculous because who's going to call themselves the Cottontails? Although,
if any place was actually called Chattahooga, then maybe.
Chattahoochee?
Did you mean Chattanooga?
Yes. Pardon me, boys.
Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo?
No, that's not how it goes. Is that the cat that chewed your new shoes?
My cat has not eaten any of my shoes, but my dog, on the other hand.
Well, there's also Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for, where Vinny made a great case last time for Don Cherry and why he should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I can see Andrea does not agree with that.
We had a small discussion about this. Okay. I get it.
Okay. So we look at that. Also, hey, Winnie, I'm the one who does this. Also on the classic sports review, coming pretty soon is roller games. We're gonna record that pretty soon. All that and so much more. There's so much that I can't even keep everything straight. So I'm spreading myself thin. It's just not actually thin, which is sort of depressing. But oh well, first world problems, guys. Well, with that being said, wherever you are, wherever you may be, the Buchnerverse bids you adieu.
Good night, everybody.